to everybody who's just joined. We are getting quite a bit of questions about the new website, and so we've just released the session today one more time to staff, and we're allowing a few moments to allow folks to jump in if they for some reason missed the other two sessions we've hosted. Okay, we're going to get started. Anyone who joins in at the last minute, hopefully they can catch up as they watch the presentation. So first and foremost, thank you so much to everybody who's joined the session. We appreciate your time. We know that the web launch is something very new to us at Chandler Gilbert. We've had essentially the same site for many, many years. And so having this as a change for us is something we really want to make sure that we communicate thoroughly and that we're guiding you through the entire process. So first and foremost, I want to introduce myself and a few colleagues who are joining me on the call. My name is Raquel Gonzalez. I am the marketing manager for the college. I have partnered with a few really, really smart people like my colleague Mark Shopoltowski for the duration of this project, which has been a little under a year now, 8 months. He has been instrumental in managing the project from an IT and technical perspective. And so I wanted to introduce him as well as Mike Curtis. Mike Curtis has been helping us during these web intros and presentations, helping us and allowing us to have as much maximum capability for attendees for these web events. We have had a lot of interest. And so he's been instrumental to making this seamless for us as we update the entire college about your new website. Mark, I just wanted to make sure I gave you the mic to say hello to the team since, or to the staff and faculty on the call. I should mention that Mark is also my partner in crime for this session, and he will be co-presenting with me toward the later part of the session.
So welcome. We're glad that you're all here. The site is live today. There's lots of excitement and a lot of new opportunity. We really look forward to sharing with you how we imagine we're going to try to conduct business and move forward with this really new asset that we have. So thanks for being here.
And so we first want to take you through a tour of the main navigational areas of the website. And let me log out because I'm looking at it as a user, and that's not good. So first and foremost, I want to introduce to you your new website and let you know that this was a labor of love for many of us, but also something that was guided by a student focus group that we facilitated very early on in the project. And so as we were making decisions about the navigations on the site and the type of content, the style and tone of the content, it was very much in response to all the feedback that the student focus group gave us. So you'll notice that your new site is now student centric. It is not either staff or faculty centric. It's also created in a way where the student resources and different services available for the student and community are now more intuitive and grouped in those groups and those service types as well. And the reason for this is it's built for that user experience. It is not built for staff or faculty experience. If you are missing something that you typically used on the external website, but it was catering to a faculty or staff member, we recommend that you look on Inside or you contact the leader who owned that content. We were working with VPs and deans as we were moving content over to Inside. Some of them may have finished work orders and others may have chosen not to publish it. So we recommend you contact them. But back to your website. So your website was written by professional copywriters. We also engaged with an external development firm and web firm. And so that involved over 60 people, including subject matter experts, like some of you sitting on the call today, and then of course, vice presidents, deans, marketing, and IT. So it was definitely a large undertaking. Please know that most things on here were intentionally built. We are still finding, because as any launch, we're going to find errors or issues. We are still combing through the site today and will be over the course of the next few weeks as we're finding broken links, corrections to certain functionality, and we will keep an eye on that. We do want to make sure we document that. As we continue with the session today, you will be asked to refer to a few pieces of documents. They are in your chat. If you could look at those now, you've got, most importantly, two pieces that you're going to be using. One of them is a work order form. The work order form is for anything that you need edited on the website. So if you're looking for changes to the site, we need you to please defer from emailing anyone. We need you to first start with the work order. As you can imagine, we are seeing an influx of different requests. Some of them are feedback and conversation and opinion, and others are true work orders. So we ask that you contact your leader, your supervisor manager, and inquire if what you're asking for is something that's aligned with their direction, and then submit the work order. The work order will then be managed by marketing and IT, and we're going to prioritize those that are urgent. And of course, we'll balance them with those that are more want or perhaps longer lead projects. Another form that you have in your chat area is a feedback form. This is simply a Google form. Mark's going to take you through both of these later, but the feedback form is more for your opinion. So let's say you had insight on something you thought went great or was a challenge, but you're not necessarily asking for a work order because perhaps it's not your area of expertise. Go ahead and feel free to submit that feedback form. And so those are two forms during the session today that you might be using. Of course, we want to open up the chat functionality later toward the session to questions. And so if you have questions now, feel free to start populating the chat. We welcome them now, but we will be addressing them toward the end of our conversation here with you today. There are a few other links that Mark's going to go through in the chat area. Those he'll point to later on in the conversation, but the big tip for this afternoon is go ahead and copy paste those links into a place where you can look at them later because they are going to be useful for you. So without further ado, let me take you through your new site. And I say yours because ultimately, this is something you're going to keep using and our students are ultimately going to be using to support their success. So I'm going to take you through the main pages of the website. After this meeting, we encourage you to tour your site and to, of course, ask questions if you have any questions. But let me walk you through the home page. So the new home page has larger banners embedded in here. And one of the functionality changes now is that the text is actually something that's not flat in the image. So this can be searchable. This is important. And then you now have a dynamic icon, a button that's available for the call to action on whatever the banner is stating. So this allows us to be much more intuitive and flexible with the copy, and then allows the student to see the call to action right at the beginning, right? They know you click here. One of the top areas of the website is our navigation. This is a huge change for us. We now have mega menus, which are drop-down menus. It allows the student or community member to peruse the site without having to find themselves lost with whether it's a combination of quick links and competing links. They know exactly where they're going by hovering and clicking to that area. Another important element of the website is our secondary navigation, which is up here at the very, very top. We noticed that there were some colleges that were removing things like library. We felt that that was important based on the student feedback as well as Coyote Connect. And so those are two additions to our secondary navigation. Front and center, we have made really important conversion points for prospective students. Those are students that have not quite yet enrolled or even registered. And so you've got an opportunity for the student to request info, and that's going to be through a CRM form. You also have now the ability for the student to get started with enrollment. Let's say they absolutely know they want to get started now. There's no time to waste, and they can do that right at the very top of our website. Another key area of the website, the body of the main page is quick links over to your left. These were based on feedback from students and leadership as far as what would be the most important quick links to your left. And so you'll find them here. And then there are important enrollment and priority thumbnails right underneath the web banner. These allow us to be more flexible with our content and allow a mix of priority content right at the top and at the fingertips of our students. You'll notice that it takes you right into degrees, enroll today, and we're currently working on a virtual campus tour that we will be replacing our physical tour with. We're working with Dean Fee on researching that for the fall. And in the short term, we are going to be replacing this text with this copy with a text to enrollment functionality, so it helps the students get immediate support. At the homepage experience, any new student or existing student gets to choose their journey. We probably all remember those books from when we were younger. So choose your adventure, right? And it's a tailored experience depending on what student you are. Now, we couldn't list every demographic. So for example, high school students, you're not going to see ACE and Hoop right at the beginning, but this is the intro to the potential demographic of the student. So I'll take you to the journey of what a high school student would look like. And unlike in the past, we're not siloing information. We want to make sure that that student sees that they have opportunities for early college across all different types. And so you get to see what is available to you. And if you're a high school student that's a graduating senior, we have a dedicated page now to help you with steps that you should be taking as you're preparing to onboard into Chandler Gilbert. Another key area for high school students is we now have a parent section for the website. It's actually all kinds of parents. And so we allow them to be the advocates that they want to be and equip them. You know, a lot of times the students are being supported by parents and guardians, and so this is an important page. A new page also is our relationship with our high school counselors needs to be supported, and so we've created a high school counselor page to help further strengthen that relationship that we know the early college team has recently solidified through the role of the high school college advisors. And so in addition to choosing your own journey on the homepage, there's also a story area for either alumni or current students. This student highlight area allows us to feature our students. We know that it's important to see yourself represented in the student body. And for us, it was our job to tell the story of the various types of students that have been with us at Chandler Gilbert. You'll notice some of them are current students and some of them have graduated, but the approach is to allow the student to say in their own words what they were involved in while they were at Chandler Gilbert, what services or support they received while they were here. What this does in a storytelling approach is it allows a prospective student to see themselves graduating or transferring, and it also allows them to hear a little bit about the support they received from whether it was PTK or being involved in Hermanas or Desert Code Camp. And so there's so much marketing that's happening in the storytelling without it being a sales conversation. So we felt that that story element was really important to feature on the homepage. Another important area that we added to the homepage is latest news. We will have a blog functionality that we're using for news and PR. And so this is the example of that. We have additional readings and multimedia resources that have been featured as a result of our recent Hope Fears event that happened yesterday. Hopefully you attended that. And so we have a wealth of information on this blog. It's visually stunning. There's elements here as far as hyperlinks, etc. And then we do have an upcoming events area that we'll be able to feature. And let me see if I can, since we don't have a current event, I may need to find an additional event to show you while Mark is sharing additional content. But please know that we have an event section that we will be sharing with you later on in this meeting. So in addition to the home page and all of the great resources there, you have sections of the site that are available to the student depending on what they're looking for. So we have an entirely new admissions area, and that admissions area also guides you based on what type of student you might be and where in your journey you might need to get a little bit of help. We have equipped all of our landing pages, those main areas for jumping into the main sections of the website, with what we call a call to action block. And the call to action block allows a student to then convert into a next step. So they can either request information, they can tour the campus virtually soon, and they can enroll today. So we're not allowing the student to continue without making that case for, are you ready to make a decision? Let's get you some support today. And from a bird's eye view, you can see that the admissions area has been equipped with a lot of student-centric content. And then of course, there's information here for resources that they might need right from the beginning, such as financial aid resources. Our academic area has been very much improved by way of centralizing all of the key important content that the student might need. One of the most important would be fields of interest. And so you see that front and center as you see degrees and certificates. This content is fed in from the district as you click into those subpages, but it's right there and readily available for the student, as is Find Class for those students ready to register to a course. Some new content that's being developed and we are continuing to enhance it is modalities, choosing the way that you're learning. So from hybrid to completely online, this area allows the student to explore what option is best for them. We also have a section called experiential learning that allows the students to understand what service learning, study abroad, sustainability, different projects across the campus that they get involved in that are really hands-on, which is kind of the I would say the heartbeat of the college with experiential learning. We're heavily involved in co-curricular activities throughout the college. And then in the same academic main homepage, or main page, I should say, you have access as a student to all kinds of academic resources that you might need. An important area here is our academic leadership directory. Students asked to get access to chairs and of course deans, and they wanted to know who do they contact and for what courses. And so we made this available to them with leadership approval. Recently, we did hear in the course of the last few sessions the request to add admin phone numbers and contact information to this page. We're working with our academic leaders to get approval for that and move that forward. I do want to mention that we do not have a college-specific directory from Chandler Gilbert. However, we have a link to the bottom of our page, a link to our employee directory from the district. So there is a directory available for all staff and faculty. However, directory functionality was not available in the framework to us. That's the template that we inherited from the district. And so at the time, because of scope, time and money, involved with creating a directory, it was not approved. It may be in the future, but for now we're using the district directory. In addition to academics, there's an entirely new section for student resources. And so students really wanted to know, what can I use to support my success while I'm here at your college? And that was something we heard even last night in the Hopes and Fears live stream, is that tell us what you can do for us. How can you support my success is what we heard the students saying. And so from a bird's eye view, anytime a student needs to know what they're getting access to, they see it in the drop-down menu. And then, of course, there's a dedicated page to the top, frequently asked for resources up here at the very top, whether it's academic advisement, tutoring and learning, and then, of course, testing. And then you see in a really intuitive layout, the resources for all kinds of services available to the student. What's important is we're speaking to them in benefit statements in the description of each of these. Another new section for the website is Campus Life. So Campus Life, we know, is a little bit different right now because of COVID. And so it was created before COVID, obviously, but there are still important areas there that demonstrate to our students what they can leverage when we do come back to campus. And so there's areas such as athletics, student life, experiencing the arts, and then, of course, fitness center, dining, and campus co-leads. These are still important benefits and resources. However, we know that the way that the students are leveraging them are changing in current time. A really important section that was pretty much brand new through the leadership of AVP Call was the community area. We wanted to feature our college impact, also highlight workforce and development, and making sure that our community events are available to anyone from the community perusing our site. We continue to highlight the lifelong learning partnership we have with NAILS for community members 60 and over. And then, of course, we also have worked and collaborated with Bobby Contreras and his team to streamline the vendor reservation process, making sure that any community member across the East Valley who reaches out to us experiences a real smooth customer service process throughout the website as they're looking for leveraging our facilities or our rooms. And then finally, we have an about area for the website that tells the story of who we are, whether it's accreditation, our missions, and then, of course, I see a typo already, but our leadership. We also talk about a little bit of the history as mentioned, and then it's a centralized area for our news and upcoming events. I should mention that news and upcoming events continue to be populated. So throughout the course of the next 2 weeks, you'll see additional content in here to help bolster the content. An important area in the About Us is our employees page. We have several people asking us where did the intranet link go, and so you'll find it in 2 areas. One will be here in this About Us page, and the employee page. And the employee page is dedicated for 2 types of employees. Current employees interested in leveraging the existing intranet, and then, of course, prospective employees. We talk a lot about diversity and inclusion and making our place feel welcome. This is a landing page also serving that purpose. of inviting those who are interested in working with us to visit our careers page. And then, of course, to close that out, the second area where you'll see a link to the intranet is in our footer. So there are two areas depending on what you prefer, and you can find our intranet link. Another important page is also our maps and locations. We've enhanced our maps and locations page with embedded Google Maps. And then, of course, we have a centralized locations page that has every single campus location and respective according details in each of those. The most important is that we now have dedicated campus location Google Maps and campus location details in each of these. And so you will see dedicated map locations in each location page, hours information, and then of course, something that is very, very new to us is services. We have not listed this in the past, and so it was an important part for our students in our community as they're looking to leverage resources. We want them to know what's available at Williams versus perhaps if they're thinking to stop by at Sun Lakes. Sun Lakes perhaps does not have the services that they want available, right? So we want the students in the community to match their expectations as they're expecting to visit someplace and receive a certain type of service. Sorry for the scrolling. I know that's hard as you're watching me. Another important area in the About Us section is also the Contact Us page. We'll continue to bolster this up as we get more information from users, but we have a Contact Us page that has a centralized area for everything under the sun at the college. I completely see this growing, but right now it's all the key service areas in the at all campuses. And so what this does is it links you directly to your page. So we're not looking to add redundant information about locations, but we are, of course, wanting to centralize that contact information. That's your tour of the whole site. I do want to talk a little bit about what we're doing for some consistency as far as contact information and COVID alerts. So we do get a lot of questions about contact info. So we are, right now, the approved process for contact information is it'll be displayed as you see it here to your left. We're going to show the hours that you've provided us. And if you have asked after hours information, counseling is an example of that. You might have some of this. It's a little longer than normal. But this is typically what you'll see in your contact information to the left. Rather than updating every single page by saying, hey, it's COVID time, we don't really have campus locations available, you need to call us, we don't necessarily think it's a best practice to update every single page with shifting COVID updates. And so what we've done is we have a general broad COVID update that we can update across the entire website. What this does is it streamlines the experience for the students or community members so that they know our faculty and staff are available to support you, but it's through email or phone number. We are not currently available on campus. And because this is a very unique time in the world, of course, the students know that they're not available on campus. And we also have a coronavirus update at the very top of our website. So we know that we've been getting some questions about the contact information. Please know we will not be listing fall hours and summer hours and winter hours all at once. We will be shifting that once a semester. So if you see hours that are wrong for summer, please let us know. Please submit a work order. But otherwise, we will ask that you submit new work orders every semester for when your hours change. The reason for that is we want to keep the content both accurate and we want to keep it succinct. So that concludes my tour of the site. I want to hand the mic over to Mark. And then in the meantime, Mark, I will look for our event page to showcase because I do owe the audience that before we close out.
Great. Thank you very much, Raquel. Let me see if I can get my screen shared here successfully. Are you seeing the admissions homepage?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So for those of you listening, thanks for being here. Please start putting your questions into chat. The way that our event is set up, you're not going to be talking to us, but if you'll put questions into chat, we will pick them, either chat or Q&A. We will pick them up and we will talk about them here in the next few minutes. One of the, you will hear in the context of web, in this web project, from time to time, a big word called common framework. What we're really referring to is a template and architecture that's defined by the district office. With us now adopting this, 9 of the 10 colleges have websites that live in this common framework and have very similar kinds of behavior and a similar kind of look. That's intentional, and that comes as both a blessing and a curse. The blessing is the district can provide a lot of content that we don't have to. That's happening in fields of interest and programs areas. But they're also providing all of the technical maintenance and support of managing and operating a website. So that burden isn't on the college. That's the blessing. The curse is we can't always make everything exactly the way we want it. It can't be exactly, in all cases, what we would wish it to be. But we move forward with that being kind of the general challenge. One of the common, there are 2 things that are missing on the website that I know people really find to be a pain point. One is that we don't have our Chandler Gilbert directory. I know that is very important to us as employees. And so there's discussion started in the technical ranks about moving that, making available that Chandler Gilbert directory on Inside for employees to still have access to it. But Raquel mentioned that out here on the public website, it's not going to be here, and it's not going to be here anytime soon. This is one of the curses. We can't have everything we want, and that data integration to have our data up that way is something that, from a security standpoint, is just not being, at this point, permitted by the district office. Another thing that you'll notice by chance is missing is athletics. The entire area of athletics is being rebuilt with a third-party vendor around a web presence that's specialized in dealing with sports and the kinds of content and information that not only students and parents want, but also scouts for professional teams, etc. That's targeted to be available roughly the end of August, and the athletics department has agreed that they would not have a web presence until that new website is available. Something that you will run into very quickly as you do a search, either here on the home page or if you do a Google search externally, is you will run into broken links. We do not have the ability to tell Google what to do. We have to wait. So by this time next week, things will be much better, where Google will have figured out that our old site is gone and quit providing links to it, and more links will be provided to this site. The internal search here on the web page uses Google, so it has the same problem. That said, there was a tremendous amount of focus in something called information architecture. And this document that I'm showing is one that's available to you in the links that have been provided. This was provided by the vendor when work was well in place. This is how the site is structured from a hierarchy. You'll see up here at the top, admissions, academics, student resources. There's multiple pages here, but you'll recognize that Raquel was sharing those in the super menu. Well, this is a place where you can see what is this kind of hierarchy and what is the experience that we intend for the students. One of the things that you may have noticed in Raquel's language is there's a lot of marketing language being used. There's call to action, there's conversion points, there's focus, there's student voice. These are all components that were a part of the design and the intent of the website. And there's a document that was presented by our partner vendor. It looks like a video here to you, but it's really a PDF of a PowerPoint deck that they shared. And in here, you will see some of these things discussed. Most importantly, you will see some of the things that students had to say in some of the survey work that was done that helped guide and direct our web leaders in where we were going with this website. Another document that exists, and I know that you can't read it, so you'll have to download it, is about web governance. There is substantial energy and substantial cost that has been applied to creating this new web presence. It's actually been painfully so that way. With it is going to come a governance experience that is unlike what we've had at Chandler Gilbert. The website is really owned and administered through the office of the president, and great pain was taken to make sure that the president and the VPs were supporting the decisions that were made, that were guiding what was being done. So often, both Raquel and I would wish that we could make decisions about much of this, but we made very few decisions. It really has been done through governance, and that governance structure is illustrated in this document. You can download, look at it in more detail, but one of the constraints in it is up here in the top is that it's a shared governance that involves the district office marketing in particular, and the district office IT teams. They have tremendous amount of say about what we can and can't do. Inside of that, we get into governance roles here in the center that a little bit look like the hierarchy of our administration. We've got executive leadership, the president, and whomever he chooses to put in really key decision-making roles. Certainly the vice presidents have been in that area so far. We have subject matter experts that really have been involved in content. They're here in the middle. We have we've been calling web leaders. These are the vice presidents and the deans and the associate vice president, all the way down through marketing and IT. And you'll see down here in responsibilities overview, you'll get an idea of what these various governance roles did and do. This is, as we move forward, this is the model that has been approved. In this section down here, you'll see some examples of I want this or that, and what level of governance does a question or request like that come into. And then there's some information here about what centralized publishing looks like and what some of the oversight is going to be on a monthly and quarterly basis. Where does this all lead? This all leads to a significant change in how we're conducting business around the web. We are going to have very few web editors. The number is about 5. Those people will exist in marketing and in IT. There's some reason for that. One is it is quite painfully difficult to maintain the website and provide the look and feel and experience that it's specifically been built to provide. Much of it's managed and edited in HTML. And there are a lot of concerns around what's it take to bring people up to speed editing. The plan going forward is all editing is going to be done in marketing or IT. But approval process is about what's going to happen or happening in governance. Now, this is with the exception of very small things like the phone number's wrong, or there's a spelling error on that page. Those kinds of things IT is going to handle directly, but everything else is going to be driven through a a governance process, and that governance process happens when you start the work order system. Now, this link is the webmaster link. It'll be available, is available in Tech Central on the inside like it always has been, but there's some changes here. The first thing is website affected. Is it going to be the public site, www, or is it the inside employee portal website? If it's www, we're talking about that governance model that we just took a look at. And I know you've got to look at it to see the details. Once we say that we're dealing with the public site, we see some things. Most of this isn't, rocket science. You've seen these kind of things before. Report broken links. Where is it? What URL? What's the problem? This is the kind of stuff that we're very familiar with. What is really going to be different is this area of requesting new content and new pages. As we click on that in this tool, it quickly tells us you're going to have to switch trains here at the next station, and we're going to jump into a marketing request form. As we jump into the marketing request form, then we start having completely different kinds of questions. This is sort of a placeholder. It's an active live thing, but marketing is working right now to break this into 3 major types of requests and things that come their way. But you will see in this area that there's going to be questions in focus here in the center about what is the intended audience? What is the focus of what we're trying to do? This connects with the governance process. And so if you are finding that you have web pages that you thought would be around and aren't, one of the important things you need to do is to start dealing with the governance level that's defined in that document and start a dialogue. You can also submit some online requests, but you're going to need to start a dialogue because the marketing department is not positioned to approve a lot of the things you might want. That really is governance at a higher level. Stuff at the IT level, there's even less ability to approve things. We really are more in a break-fix supporting role. There's a couple very small exceptions, but know that this is important, and it's a different model, and we're going to have to grow into this. It's going to be uncomfortable here for a few weeks. There is another link that was provided to you, which is website feedback or questions. This is something that Raquel and I are managing and will be responding to. It does require that you be logged in, so you don't have the ability to ask something from an anonymous standpoint, but we understand that there are many employees and only about 60 of them were involved in building and designing the content on the website. And we understand you may have questions and you may have concerns. This is not the place to start raising issues like my page is missing and we need this and what about that? This is really meant to open the dialogue about how do we do things? Why did we do things? What were the decisions that were made? Why is the focus what it is? You can ask other certain things, certainly like how far in advance do I need to request an event? And you can certainly ask things like that, but understand that real work and real requests need to go through the work order process. An area on the website that I want to demonstrate, get out of all of this dry stuff, is we've had it in our previous website, the ability for students to schedule appointments. As we have moved into this website, a decision was made that we would leverage a third-party product called Cranium Cafe for student-facing schedule appointments. Now, Cranium Cafe provides a lot of other things, and as employees, you'll be hearing more and more about it as we continue to leverage it across the college. But the web-facing need, I'm going to demonstrate it in counseling. Counseling needs to be able to set appointments, have students create appointments, and theirs is up and running. I'm scrolling down, not expecting you to read it, but I'm getting down here to schedule an appointment. I click on that. Oh, I'm still on our website. Okay, now we're on the appointment scheduling page for counseling. When I click here, we're really going to jump out of the website and we're really going to jump into the calendar scheduling presence. I want to show it to you so you kind of understand what's there in concept. So we're in counseling. This is all the context of counseling. This is the counseling schedule. It's completely separate from everybody else's. And there's some indication there's meeting slots available today and then nothing else this week. There's a issue here where, there's a feature here where there's select a reason. This is fundamentally a part of this calendar enablement is we start asking students questions. What is the reason for the appointment? And we start getting them mapped to the right resource, to the right appointment availability. So I'm going to pick career planning, and then a meeting location came up. Right now, counseling is providing counseling literally only by telephone. When we return to campus, there might be office visits. There's feature for video conferencing, but counseling right now is using telephone visits only. So I'm going to select that. It's my only choice, but I'm going to select it. And then it starts asking me a meeting date. Seems that there's only one that's posted right now. And then there's some recommended time slots. There are 2 time slots yet today. I can show more, and I happen to know that there's only 2 available. It's possible to see here who would be the counselor that's involved in any of these time slots. And when a student clicks on one of these, 2 things happen. One is they're asked to log in, and we're using Canvas as a means to log in. Not Canvas entering Canvas, but a person has to be able to authenticate in Canvas. What does that mean? That means that they have reached a point called matriculation in the enrollment process. Counseling is only dealing with actual students. And so that's the rules for them. The rules will be different in some of the areas. But when the student actually selects the appointment time, then there's an intake form. It's customized by the department that is setting up the scheduling mechanism to gather more information and to make sure that they're creating the right kind of dialogue with the student in terms of expectations and meeting their needs. Just a fast sheep dip dive into what the appointment scheduling looks like in the new website. That experience, as you saw it, is how the experience will be with different questions, but that experience will be what happens in advising, what happens in financial aid, what happens in the learning center, on and on and on across our college. There is concern that has risen around the topic of something that's very technical called URL redirects and vanity URLs. I want to touch on this. There are roughly about 6,000 bookmarkable things on the old website. We decided that we would make no attempt to try to map all of that to the new website. We actually want people to destroy their bookmarks and create new ones. That said, important areas have been mapped across. They're called URL redirects, and those are in place. We're still tweaking here and there as we see needs. The website tells us that stuff is being requested that it can't resolve, and as we see those numbers grow, we're monitoring it. Another thing that we have are what we call vanity URLs. They're short URLs. cgc.edu/counseling would be one of them. Vanity URLs are not in place. We are discussing how we want to standardize some of that. We're putting some of them in place immediately as they block business process, but we're not putting all of them that have been in place in the past. There were around 450. We're not going to create that many, but we are going to create them to target specific needs to be able to, number one, support business processes that may be documented on paper or in other communication, and number two, to carefully support the student process of being able to communicate where to find things on the website. It is the case that the names in the URLs up here in the top of the web pages have much more meaning from a student standpoint because they're not organizationally structured based, they're student facing needs based. Raquel, I want to open the floor up to questions and quit screen sharing and come back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I want to encourage all of you to either post into chat or Q&A, whatever's more convenient for you. Any questions that you have for Mark and I, in the meantime, I'd love to share, Mark, if that's okay, what an event looks like.
Sure, sure.
So please keep posting your questions. We do want to get to them. So hopefully you see my event. This was an event that was hosted yesterday, and so it's no longer published because it's a past event, but I wanted to share with you what the anatomy of a new event page looks like. So front and center will be the event title. There's categories now for events, so you'll be able to see different categories of what this might look like. And then there's also some really cool functionality to the right for a registration link. For live events, we're going to ask that the college staff and faculty use a system called Eventbrite, which is a software that we're using for event registrations across the board. An alternative of that is Coyote Connect for student life. And then, of course, we know that virtually, while we have COVID, most likely your events will be virtual in nature, and so you'll partner with marketing and IT to help set that up. But for this event, the sign up is for the live stream. You'll see that the date and time is front and center, and then there's an ability to showcase related links, as well as what I think is really important is that the visitor can share this with anyone or even perhaps email it to themselves to attend this upcoming event. A really important content piece for events moving forward is that we'll need a description so that we can highlight your event. So this is an important process change, and I want to make sure that we're clear about this, but events in the past were listed in a small area on the homepage, really buried across everything else, and they were just a list of an event in 25 Live. We will not be leveraging 25 Live as it does not actually connect to the framework. So when you submit a work order for a room, that will not populate information here. The way that we will be creating event pages for you is through a marketing work order, just like Mark had showed you where to begin is the webmaster form. And you will be asked for a description of your event so that the attendees know exactly what they're getting into, and then a registration link as well as details for time, location, etc. So just wanted to share with you what an event page looks like.
Thank you, Raquel. I'm wanting to address a couple concerns and questions that are coming up. There's apparently been some trouble for some people with regards to the links that we have sent in chat. We will get an email out yet today, meaning we'll do it before our day ends, to the entire college that has these links that have been shared in chat to these special resources that we're talking about. We also will get that stuff posted on Inside and direct you to it. But today we'll simply get those links available to you. There's been a question about program pages and department pages. This actually has been a tremendously difficult pain point in and around this web project. When we started the web project, the district office just short of mandated that we wouldn't have program pages. In consultation with the president and the web leaders, the vice presidents, much conversation went around, do we need to have these? Yes and no. Student input was considered very heavily in and around this. The outcome was a decision that we were not going to have academic department or academic division sections in the website, and that we would be very restrictive on the number of student services areas that were available on the website. This is all in keeping with the tone and focus. the model has since shifted. The district office has determined their model about this isn't working, and we are expecting imminently at any time what are called program pages to return. Program pages will be content to start with, much like the district office provided field of interest content, but with the new program pages will be the availability for the college to put in their own specific nuances and promos and things about programs, the specifics about a program at Chandler Gilbert. This is going to come slowly, meaning this is not something that's going to happen next week. Over the next couple of months, I anticipate that we will start seeing, number one, the district office actually release this, and number two, our web leaders have to determine how are we going to go about populating this information. It is unlikely that it's going to lead to department pages like we've seen in the past. Leadership has very little appetite for that. It's unlikely that it's going to lead to division pages like we've seen in the past. Again, there's not the appetite for that. There is this complicated area for which we don't have answers for right now, where staff and faculty are wanting to be identified and for contact information to be available. That's a topic we're working through with governance to determine how are we going to do this, and do we really need it, or is it just an appetite that we've developed from our past? Raquel, are you seeing other topics that we can speak to?
I do see another question that came in. Do these links link to Coyote Connect, and students can get their attendance checked for co-curricular events? I believe this refers to the event page I just shared. Yes, we can use student life links for Coyote Connect for respective events.
And further extending that, in the footer, there is a little icon with the C in it that's familiar to students for getting to Coyote Connect. The topic of co-curricular activity, attendance, and co-curricular transcripts is really completely outside of the scope of the web project. But I am aware that much focus is being given in that area. I'm also aware that the topic of attendance and providing a co-curricular transcript is a very big priority for Michael Green and his team. And they also are extending, we're in the early stages of extending, not only using a platform called Engage, but also a platform called GivePulse. Specifically, GivePulse will be focused at service learning, and it will be integrated to provide that co-curricular transcript, and that will continue to be available in the Chandler Gilbert roster feature of being able to see those co-curricular activities.
Mark, we have a new question.
Are you referring to the question about entry points for industry partners?
Yes, I was going to read it and I accidentally remuted myself. So the question is, for purposes of the recording, is there an entry point for potential industry partners? How will potential students know what companies are associated with Chandler Gilbert? Where can parents, potential students find out about internships, part-time work, career fairs, etc.? Michael, thank you for that question. So you have a couple of areas that you've discussed in those combined questions. We have an entirely new community area that I shared earlier, and within it, there's an entry point for partners called workforce development. And so here, it talks about how we support them with recruiting for their company, building talent pipeline, and then it introduces kind of in a teaser to work together with us. I think there's something wrong with this page, Mark, so we'll want to flag that. But there is a direct contact to our AVP of community relations will then take the lead and help the introduction to that partner and nurture them accordingly. So that's how the potential industry partners can have that entry point. As far as potential students and parents, there are career resources in on our page called Career Services. It's a dedicated page for the student, and so there they have the ability to look at federal work study, and they can contact the Career Services Department to learn more about details for internships, etc. Another area where you might find it is when there comes a time, and I know this happens throughout the year, to promote career fairs, they will be seen in upcoming events. So if there is any announcement, because it's related to really great things happening with potential internships or part-time work, you will see it in the latest news area. So the site is built to where content isn't siloed. It'll be promoted at different areas of the website. And then, of course, if it's something that's happening to benefit our students, we want the various departments, to partner with marketing so that we can be that megaphone that you need. Now more than ever, you know that while we're doing things virtually, it's important that you leverage all of our digital channels, whether it be website or email or social media, etc., to help get the word out about what resources you're looking for. I hope that answers your question. If not, please feel free to chime back in and ask us if there's something else we weren't clear with.
Are there other questions? I know we've run over time here, but we want to try to answer questions that you may have if you want to stick with us.
And it looks like there's one comment about sending an email. We just want to confirm that we ask that you send in a work order if you're interested in making a change, or a feedback form if you're interested in giving feedback. Right now, it is very challenging to manage requests through email, so we ask that you submit that work order. It's really going to help life make it easier here for us as a collective team. And then there's a question here about diversity initiatives captured. So how are diversity initiatives captured? At this time, it seems to be a very high priority to address these initiatives. That's a leadership question you're asking us. Definitely something I recommend you take with your chair or dean or director. We want to support that, and you can see that in the last few days. Obviously, we have been promoting this Hopes and Fears series that we are promoting across the next, I think it's 6 months or so. And there's also things like readings that are happening. You'll see the latest blog is all about recommended readings. And then on our library page, we recently just had a BLM gallery that came out. So diversity as an initiative and strategy needs to be discussed with leadership. Diversity as in content and access to those things, marketing is ready to support. But I believe that question that you're posing is probably way over my head and needs to be addressed by a vice president or the president. And then Julie, you had a comment about something sent to the wrong area. If you prefer to stay on in the meeting, when we close, Mark and I can address whatever's going on with something being sent to the wrong area. We are fielding all work orders between IT and marketing. So if you're using the webmaster form, there should be no reason to get sent to an incorrect area. But if you could stay on, we can help you out. And we want to encourage the rest of you on the call. Any other questions you have before we end this session? Okay, well, with that, we know we're over hours, and we want to thank you again for your time, and we appreciate your support, all your questions. Keep them coming. You will see an email coming out from us about the different links links and resources that you have available to you as we move forward with using this new website. I hope you have a great day and have a happy holiday.
Thank you for joining us.